In this video, we're going to discuss some of the debugging tools that are built into the Spyder IDE. First one of those is these error messages over on the left-hand side. They're kind of warning messages or code analysis. And so, for example, we can scroll over that and see that I have a undefined name square root in my script, and I had forgotten to include the math library, so I can use that code to figure out what error I had. And as soon as I fix that, you can see that that goes away. Now, one thing to notice is that sometimes down here we see that the local variable circle1 is assigned but never used, and I may want to make a circle but never use it later, and that's okay. So some of these we ignore, other ones are extremely helpful. The next thing that is really helpful is this line of code here at the bottom. First, in our main function, we have a try statement, and if anything goes wrong within our try statement, it's going to push out to here and send a message to the UI. So we have access to UI, and then we have a message box, and that is going to give the trace back to the error. So for example, if I had accidentally forgotten to capitalize this, first of all, you can see that I'm going to get a little warning over here. But if I didn't see that and I still tried to run it, and we open up regular Fusion, we see here that a message box has popped up. It gives me the error right here, global name root comp is not defined. It gives me what I have on my line, and then it tells me the line number, so line 22. So if we go back to our code, we can see on line 22, root comp is never defined, and then I can figure out, oh, I forgotten to capitalize that. So that's another extremely useful line of code. On top of that, we also up here, all of these blue buttons are some of the debugging tools. So instead of just running your script, you can run it in debug mode, as well as inserting breakpoints over here. So for example, if I double click on the numbers to the left, it inserts a breakpoint. Then I can run my file in debug mode, and I can either step through into the functions, or I can run until the next breakpoint, for example. One thing to notice that's really useful is the variable explorer over here. So it's going to keep track of all your variables. If you have a lot of math, it's very beneficial to use that. So for example, if I run this to the breakpoint, everything before that should be in this variable explorer, so we can see that I can see the value of my radius 1 and my radius 2. So that's very useful. And like I said, we can step through the lines of code here, or we can run it all. And we can also stop it as well. So if we exit debug mode. One last thing that I wanted to point out is how to cast a component. So the Spyder IDE has a built-in IntelliSense. So for example, if I do root comp and then a period, it's going to give me a lot of examples of what it thinks I might want to grab. So it can give me some certain things here. But that IntelliSense doesn't always get everything. And so what I can do is, instead of having this root comp, the design.root component, I can cast this root component, and that helps the IntelliSense. So I'm going to actually switch out this line of code for this one here, which is really similar. As you can see, it still has the design.root component, but we're going to go ahead and cast that component. And now notice how if I go and as soon as I put in a period, now it gives me a lot more options. And so I can go down here, and I think we had sketches. So you can see the difference when I had this commented out and I was just using the root component without casting it. We'll go and see that the IntelliSense doesn't give us a full list, but when we use the IntelliSense and cast our component, that will help us in coding as well. So that's all that we have for debugging.